All right, next up, Miami and Indy. Miami and Indy. Now, the Indianapolis defense is continuing to get better, and I could see this game being very tightly contested as it is right now. But Miami heading into Indy, where they're trying to get things figured out now that their quarterback has been benched, their starting quarterback that they drafted, and I think this Indy defense is going to come to play. Obviously, led by DeForest Buckner down in the trenches, but this is a good defense and made a lot of improvements over the last few years. So while they were a little forgiving to quarterbacks and receivers last year, I could see them being a lot stronger this year. I do think this Miami offense is going to be better, though. So when it comes to Tua, he's obviously the one thing with him is he's got to stay healthy. Like he has to stay healthy. You got to avoid concussions. But when he plays, especially early in the year, this Miami offense tends to have a lot of success. Most of their struggles come in the second half of the year where we see things get a little colder. It slows down a little bit. So I think Tua is a very good QB2 option to have right now, a high-end QB2, and I'd feel comfortable with him as my starter or in a DFS type setting. I would feel very comfortable with him as my go-to. You could see another higher point total here for the early morning Sunday slate. And as far as receivers goes, there's been so much offseason chatter about this offense in general. Like Tyreek Hill was dealing with some injuries. He dealt with the injury last year. Is he washed? You see him on stream with speed, doing, racing stuff. So it's like all kind of stuff here with Tyreek Hill. And I think that a lot of, you hear some of the other stuff, the off the field stuff with him as far as, personal things that he has going on. I think with Tyreek Hill, once football starts, we see the old Tyreek Hill. Now, maybe he doesn't put up 1,700 yards this year, but as your wide receiver one, I'd feel very good about leaving him in my lineup. Even in your 18 leagues, if you have somebody else you're debating, leave Tyreek Hill in until he proves us otherwise. And as far as Jalen Waddle, you might have a hard decision to make with him at your wide receiver 3 or flex spot. I would say start Jalen Waddle because there's been a lot of talk that he is the wide receiver 1 for this team this offseason. And so this could be a situation where we have like a 1A, 1B. 1 week we see one receiver do well. The other week we see another do well, kind of like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, kind of like we'll probably see out of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. I trust that Jalen Waddle is going to have some very strong weeks, especially without Jonnu Smith being there this year. He was taking up a lot of those, shorter targets. The one thing with Waddle is he's got to stay healthy, and he's coming into the season healthy. Treat him as a healthy upside wide receiver 3. He could probably even go into this wide receiver 2 range this week. So for me, I like starting Jalen Waddle as a high upside play, especially if you can get him at your flex spot in 3 receiver leagues. And then Devon Achane, obviously you're firing up in this matchup, should be involved in the passing game. The one thing is the calf. Hopefully nothing is going on here with the calf. And you also want to make sure like Ollie Gordon isn't taking up valuable red zone touches. So for me, Devon Achane obviously has been one of the guys I've been talking up this offseason as having a lot of upside. I continue to think Devon Achane has a lot of upside. Even in this matchup, he's, a top 5 play for me this week. Ollie Gordon is the other back there. Jalen Wright's going to be out for a little bit, got banged up this preseason, didn't look the part either. So see what Ollie Gordon looks like. Are they giving him 6 to 8 carries? Is he seeing a healthy 10 to 12 carries? Is he getting red zone opportunities? That's what I'll be watching here. As far as Ollie Gordon, I'm not expecting it, and I'm not starting him in any format. Please show me Ollie Gordon before I put you in starting lineups. That's my play here. How much of the field are you seeing? Like, there's a lot there with Ollie Gordon before I trust him in the lineup. And as far as Darren Waller goes, obviously he missed a lot of time this offseason, came out of retirement to play for Miami. So I think they have things worked out for him to have some kind of role on this team. I want to see this with Darren Waller before we start putting him back into this top 15, top 20 tight ends. Now, he could surprise us all because this is a great matchup for him. This Indy matchup is great. I just want to see what it looks like with Darren Waller before I even think to pick him up in most leagues. If this is best ball, go ahead. Like, if it's a best ball league you drafted, it's fine. But I think for Darren Waller, I'm kind of waiting to see what it looks like with him before we fully trust him. It wouldn't shock me if he catches like a touchdown. We're talking about him as like a tight end pickup of the week. As far as the Indy side goes, this Miami defense was a nightmare for teams last year, but they also had Jalen Ramsey there. So I know obviously led by like Bradley Chubb. You bring in Minkah Fitzpatrick. This defense is probably still going to be good. I don't know if it has the same appeal as it once did. I think he lost Xavier Howard. He's with the Colts now. So I think with this Miami defense, they'll still be good. I just don't know if it's as daunting as it was last year. So Daniel Jones enters the fold now against this Miami defense. But I think Daniel Jones actually might surprise some people. I've been a big Anthony Richardson guy on this channel and thought that he should have had an opportunity to be the starter. But now that Daniel Jones is here, we can kind of assess his value. And it's like when he uses his legs, as Shane Steichen like tries to have his quarterbacks do, like Daniel Jones can have a nice floor. We saw it with the Giants. It really comes down to like the passing for him. And can you be a competent passer on most weeks? And we saw a little bit of it was kind of sketchy during the preseason, but you get Michael Pittman back to full health, and I'm not sure if Josh Downs is going to be available for this week or not. I know he's questionable as of last week. Haven't seen the full update with him yet. But you also have A.D. Mitchell. You also have Alec Pierce. So there's weapons here for Daniel Jones to throw to. And you bring in Tyler Warren in the draft. Okay, now we're talking about weapons on this offense. If Josh Downs does miss time, obviously that's a safety valve that's gone, but you do have now Tyler Warren that can help out. So I feel really good about the floor for Daniel Jones, not to mention you have one of the best running backs in the league to kind of offset things. So I think Daniel Jones has like some sleeper quarterback 2 appeal. Nice kind of floor value as well. I think if he does provide some rushing, another year removed from his ACL surgery. So I'm not optimistic about Daniel Jones, but I do think new opportunity here paired with a good offensive coordinator could be a good thing for the passing game, at least initially. And then I touched on it real quick, the receivers, Michael Pittman coming back now. This is a wide receiver 3 for me this week. Decent matchup here against Miami. So let's see what it looks like with this entire offense as a whole. I'm not rushing to play him over some other stronger players, but I am glad that I drafted Michael Pittman because now I get to see, okay, what does it look like with him back healthy again with Daniel Jones. We saw Daniel Jones was force-feeding Malik Neighbors, who kind of plays the same role that Michael Pittman does, a guy that can play between the 10s and 20, yard throws and intermediate throws. I think Michael Pittman has some sleeper appeal here for me as like a wide receiver 3. I'm not in a rush to start him, but I do think he's very startable this week. Josh Downs, if he's able to give it a go, I would wait to see what he looks like coming off the injury, see what his role looks like in this offense. But A.D. Mitchell could be a nice sleeper here against Miami. Obviously, if he's able to be the number 2 receiver in this offense, it would boon well for his value. And we might be talking about him as a waiver week 1 waiver pickup as well, especially if Josh Downs were to miss time. If Josh Downs is back, obviously A.D. Mitchell would not be a play, but I think A.D. Mitchell would have some flex appeal here if he's able to be – if Josh Downs is not on the field. I think A.D. Mitchell would provide a little bit of sleeper appeal here, especially if he's able to connect on some of the throws that he wasn't able to last year. Like I know Daniel Jones isn't going to throw it deep as much as Anthony Richardson, but it would say like, hey, there's maybe some opportunity to show his actual talent. He was a former second-round pick and not just a deep ball guy. This is a guy that's actually a technician when it comes to route running. Curious to see how things play out for A.D. Mitchell this year. And then Jonathan Taylor, obviously a fire up here against Miami. Really not a whole lot to say with Jonathan Taylor. One of my favorite running back plays of the week. It's a neutral matchup for him. But I think Jonathan Taylor obviously has all the appeal of like a high-end RB1 this week, especially when it comes to like popping off for big plays and red zone opportunities. That was the one thing with Anthony Richardson. If you were concerned about like Anthony Richardson taking red zone opportunities, Daniel Jones doesn't really pose as much of a threat. So I'd see Jonathan Taylor having a strong day. And then Tyler Warren. You ready? We saw him use out the backfield, out the slot, out wide, in line. There's going to be a lot of ways that they use Tyler Warren. So be very excited about it. It's a neutral matchup on paper, at least for now. We'll see how it plays out. Obviously, a lot of these matchups that I'm talking about will change over the course of the year, but Tyler Warren steps into a world of opportunity. And as the safety valve for Daniel Jones, should see somewhere between 5 to 7 targets almost initially, whether that's out the backfield in the slot. It looks like they have some manufactured touches for him. So Tyler Warren going to be a top 12 tight end play, probably more top 10-ish tight end play this week.